people like me. You need people like me so you can point your fingers and say, that's the bad guy. That's the bad guy. That's the bad guy. That's the bad guy. That's the bad guy.
Welcome to the motherfucking relay. We're covering today's top boxing news.
But if you had to label who's the GWOAT right now, who would you slap that label on?
Well, I mean, the GOAT is different from the GWOAT. Clarissa has marketed and made the GWOAT a thing. Like that GWOAT, like that's like her trademark. And she put money into it and she's also invested into it. So like no one can really take that from her. Like that's
I feel that.
The GOAT of women's boxing. And the accolades, it would have to be Amanda Serrano. Nothing was handed to her. And she just kept going with the promise of like nothing. Like she was taking, I mean, a lot of risk in her career. And even to this day, she still takes a lot of risk. Katie Taylor beat her and her sister. And every single time she steps back up to like, no, next time I'm going to beat you. Like that is insanity and a chase for greatness that she's willing to herself. Clarissa's never lost. So like that feeling of the grab back and digging your way out of that hole, she doesn't know that. Like Amanda's tasted losses and fought back and still respected in the sport and even making more money. So I'm going to say Amanda Serrano.
That was an interesting take from unbeaten Danielle Perkins ahead of the Clarissa Shields fight. She's separated the GWOAT from the GOAT, even though one so obviously inspired the other.
The GWOAT is really just the GOAT with a W in there. That's all Clarissa added to it. But if she's gone as far as trademarking,
Coining that phrase, she can have it. Because Danielle views Amanda Serrano as the GOAT, the greatest of all times in women's boxing anyway.
the greatest of all times.
As you can imagine, Clarissa Shields was none too happy to hear that, reacting by saying this is the funniest shit of 2025 so far. That's why Danielle is getting her issue February 2nd. And it's so funny because what accolades are you speaking of? Olympic gold medals. She has more weight classes but doesn't have more world titles than me, don't have more undisputed titles, not even undefeated. Y'all gotta stop.
Somebody ought to tell Clarissa that being the GOAT, the greatest of all times, doesn't necessarily come with a set criteria, a requisite number of belts or a requisite number of divisions. There are no requisites. In Danielle's opinion, Amanda is the GOAT. Somebody else's opinion, somebody else might be.
Try not to let that bother you while you stroke your own ego, saying, my favorite movie, The Fire Inside, is still in movie theaters. The biopic about my life.
Who needs to watch a biopic about your life when you can't shut the hell up for 5 minutes about your life?
Showing my struggles as a young girl in boxing, decisions I made back then have fought for the equal pay we're striving towards now. With zero handouts, I changed women's boxing.
No, you didn't.
Still doing so. Go to the movies and be inspired.
Sorry, is that an order?
I've said it before, and I'll say it again. For as much as Clarissa likes to talk about her 2 gold medals, she would have never got the chance to win them if it wasn't for Katie Taylor. Women being allowed to box in the Olympic Games has everything to do with Katie. So if anybody changed the game, it really was Katie more than Clarissa. Clarissa's not even the only 2-time Olympic gold medalist. Nicola Adams won 2 gold medals too.
You didn't change the game, though you were part of it, but you didn't change it.
Over to Clarissa's gripes with Danielle Perkins, who views Amanda Serrano as the GOAT, the greatest of all times, and she said why.
Because Amanda was here before the big-time promoters and the big-time networks, before any of that came into it, before the renaissance of women's boxing, Amanda was there.
Paying her dues and hanging tough. In Danielle Perkins' opinion, that's what makes Amanda Serrano the GOAT, the greatest of all times, while Clarissa tries to make it about her Olympic gold medals or her belts.
None of that is a requisite of being the greatest of all times. In men's boxing, Muhammad Ali is widely regarded as the greatest of all times, and it's not because of how many belts he had. There are a good number of fighters who have held more belts and at more weights than he has, but they're not regarded as the greatest of all times. Why is he?
And Muhammad Ali was not undefeated for Clarissa Shields' effort to make this about an unbeaten record and still having her O. Muhammad Ali wasn't undefeated.
But he's still considered the GOAT.
Perhaps because to some people, being considered the greatest of all times is not about being perfect or having an unbeaten record. Thus, Amanda not having one does not exempt her from being considered the greatest of all times. If to Danielle Perkins that's the way it is, who the hell are you to tell her no?
So what are you gonna do? Get into an argument with everybody who thinks that Amanda's the GOAT or Katie's the GOAT?
We can take it to a vote, and I guarantee you that most people won't vote for Clarissa.
Nope.
I think it really grinds Clarissa's gears when anybody suggests that Amanda is better at something than her. Better in any way.
I think she looks down on Amanda, so when anybody suggests that Amanda is better than her at something, better in any way, it really bothers her.
Think about it. She's crashing out because Danielle Perkins thinks Amanda's the GOAT. What the hell do you care what Danielle Perkins thinks?
Are you trying to tell her what to think?
When I see Clarissa, how she behaves, I don't know if it's that she has an overblown ego or a fragile one. How easily she's set off.
How much validation she requires, because when you start up like this, that's what you're looking for. Validation.
Validation from Danielle Perkins.
Don't you see? She's taking time out of her day to worry about who Danielle Perkins thinks is the GOAT. What difference does it make to you?
What do you care? And as much time as Clarissa spends on arguments like this one, she clearly does. She clearly cares.
She's not the GOAT. She's not the GWOAT.
Amanda is better than Clarissa.
Better at what?
Anything. Everything.
Better.
Better looking, too, because Amanda is a looker, whereas Clarissa's insufferable. Clarissa's annoying.
You know what would be nice? If Danielle Perkins knocked her out.
An early Christmas present. And one less thing for Clarissa Shields to try to lord over everybody else, that she's unbeaten. It'd be nice if she wasn't.
Is right. The first one we saw was he stood alone. He stood alone on the platform. He did the whole conference by himself, right? Press tour by himself, and he did his thing. You know what I'm saying? I respect a man that can stand on his own 2 feet, for real. But this one right here, having that picture leak, him looking real zesty,
Slay.
and not giving a whoo, trying to tell y'all, my man is on a new level. You know what I'm saying? Y'all know that song? We on a new level. I'm on a new level.
For Lamont Roach, he had to reach a new level for Lamont Roach? The same Lamont Roach that Jamel Herring thoroughly outpointed years ago?
A new level, you say?
I'm on a new level. Yes, my dude is on a new level, man, because he know who he is. There's a power in knowing who you is. Most people don't know who the hell they are, right? They don't know who the hell they are. They think they know, but they really don't know who they are. It takes you a while to figure out. We're constantly evolving as a human, right? Constantly evolving.
I do understand what Tim Bradley's getting at, that Gervonta Davis is starting to mature and come into his own, less concerned with what people think of him and more concerned with what he thinks of himself.
And what he wants for himself.
Right? But now he know. Tank know now. So that's why he don't give a damn. Having that power, that superpower, not giving a damn. And see, and that's the reason why I can come to you guys, come to YouTube. I can, sit in front of you. I can hear the boos. I can hear the, you didn't beat Pacquiao. I can hear the big head, the milk dud, the coon, the, all the names that everybody always call me. That's why I can sit here and just still be myself and do what I do, because I just don't give up about what anybody do. And Tank has gotten that superpower too now, baby. He just don't give it. Tank gonna be Tank. Tank gonna do what Tank gonna do. That's just it. Whether he looking zesty or not, he know who he is.
Cause my pussy pops severely.
There's a superpower to that. And guess who he gonna take that out on? He gonna take that out on Lamont Roach, man. I feel sorry for Roach. Roach is a good fighter, man. He's a good fighter. He is. But I'm telling you, this Tank right here is different. It's a different dude. Alright? Did y'all see the weight too? Did y'all see the weight? The dude can fight tomorrow. The dude can fight today. The dude can fight whenever. It's a few weeks away, a few months away from the fight. Woo. I'm telling y'all.
I agree with most of what Tim Bradley said. There is a unique power in indifference, being indifferent to what people think of you. As you settle into your personality, who you really are, which for some people takes some time to uncover, there's a power in that maturity.
Standing on your square, whether people like it or not.
And maybe Gervonta Davis is starting to mature. He's a father of 2 children. He's 30 years old now. Though what Timothy's leaving out of the equation is that Gervonta said he wants to retire this year. So you can't approach this with any kind of enthusiasm knowing that this might be his final year in the sport.
What's to be excited about?
That he seemingly hit a new level, and that's all bad for Lamont Roach? Come on, Tim. Before that image of him surfaced with his hair in a ponytail, you, me, and everybody else had him knocking out Lamont Roach.
Yeah.
The outcome of the fight is all but a foregone conclusion.
Whether he's settling into his persona or not, maturing or not.
As all of this pertains to boxing, and the boxing match that he's about to have, nothing changed. He's still fighting an overmatched opponent, another super featherweight who he brought up to lightweight.
The odds makers still have him the massive favorite, so do you, so do I.
This shift in his personality would only be relevant if it affected his business decisions moving forward, that if it resulted in a Gervonta who's not afraid to branch out, who's not afraid to leave the nest, he's leaving the sport, Tim.
If it resulted in him working with Turkey El Sheikh moving forward and showing more enthusiasm towards fights like a Shakur Stevenson fight, or a Lopez fight, a Haney fight, if that's what it resulted in, then I would understand your enthusiasm.
I would understand the excitement, but we're talking about a fighter who literally said he means to retire this year. So what's to be excited about?
Whatever he's becoming is of little to no significance to a boxing fan.
And more elements that were left out of the equation, left out of Tim's assessment, is that not only is he retiring, he would be retiring at a time when the only real fights left for him are the real fights.
It's a lot harder to stay on easy street now that Showtime left boxing, PBC's in bed with Amazon, and the deal structure is different. Nobody's just gonna throw money at you to fight Hammond Eggers and no hopers.
Do you think that's a coincidence? I told you guys on live stream after live stream, before some of these fights happen, the ones you're asking for, he will retire.
Boxing is a jealous sport. Timothy Bradley knows that better than I do.
Gervonta Davis may have come up as Floyd Mayweather's protege, but a Floyd Mayweather, he is not. He just doesn't have the work ethic.
The drive.
Floyd wanted to make money. I think everybody does. Every prize fighter that is a prize fighter cares about the prizes, but it was also a point of pride for Floyd to be thought of as the #1 pound-for-pound fighter in the sport, that he was aspiring to be the best. And that's not Gervonta.
It never was. At the very most, he was a gimmick.
Him settling into his persona is the least of my concerns as a boxing fan, because when I look at Gervonta's career, all the reasons you tune into a boxing match to see 2 hungry fighters go at it, trying to be the best.
Right?
That's not Gervonta.
I look at Gervonta and I see everything that's wrong with boxing here in America.
And a desperate need for change, because the sport can't survive if this is the best America has to offer. Thankfully, it isn't.
If he's ready to call it quits and call it a career, I call that cause for celebration.
So he can have more time to put more relaxer in his hair and take more selfies, buy more nail polish, more purses.
Why are you mad?
Elsewhere in the men's lightweight division, the Keyshawn Davis versus Dennis Berinchyk fight was officially announced, set to go down in a tri-state area in New York. And on the undercard, we're going to be seeing unbeaten Xander Zayas in what will be his very first fight of this year. Jared Anderson will be making his first ring appearance since his shock upset loss to Martin Bacoli. That wasn't so shocking to me. I picked Martin to win that fight. Unbeaten up-and-comer and standout Abdullah Mason will be making his next ring appearance on that undercard. They even dug up Nico Ali Walsh. I wondered if Top Rank was all but done with the middleweight contender, the grandson of Muhammad Ali.
They spared no expense to remind us 1,000,000 times that he's Muhammad Ali's grandson.
He's going to be facing an opponent that has yet to be announced, and of course, in the main event, newly crowned WBO champion of the Ukraine, Dennis Berinchyk will be defending his WBO title against Keyshawn Davis,
who looked sensational when last we saw him opposite the ring. Gustavo Lemos, who gave Richardson Hitchens all he could handle at 140, but Keyshawn Davis was too much for him to handle at 135, just 12-0.
25 years old in what will be his very first world title fight against a live animal, a live dog, and Dennis Berinchyk, 36 years old. The Keyshawn Davis was 25.
It's going down on Valentine's Day.
Dennis Berinchyk, the newly crowned WBO champion, sporting a professional record of 19 wins with no losses, no draws, 9 knockouts. If you haven't seen this fighter in action, think Vasyl Lomachenko, think Alexander Vojdik, because he's from that school of boxing.
It's not a mindless drone like Gustavo Lemos who's just going to barrel forward irrespective of how much punishment he's taking. There's a lot more to Dennis Berinchyk than just pressure, than just aggression. I think this will be a stiffer test for young Keyshawn Davis than Gustavo Lemos was. Keyshawn, who sports a professional record of 12 wins with no losses, no draws, 8 knockouts. He's fighting for a title at just 12-0?
Well, that's how good he is. That's how talented he is. They wouldn't be putting him in this fight if they didn't feel he was ready for it.
But he will be tested.
So what was working for Keyshawn Davis in the Gustavo Lemos fight is that Keyshawn Davis is best described as a boxer-puncher. Not the kind of guy you want to stand right in front of, and that's exactly what Gustavo Lemos did, whereas Dennis Berinchyk is a bit more nuanced. He cuts angles, those pivots, like what you see from Vasyl Lomachenko and Vojdik and Usyk.
Yeah, he does that too. I wouldn't say that Dennis is competing on the same level as those fighters, but he's solid.
And I think he can push Keyshawn a bit harder than Gustavo Lemos did. Keyshawn, who saw action 3 times last year. Once in February, again in July, then again in November.
This will be his first fight of this year.
He takes care of business in mid-February. He's got the rest of the year to pursue other champions and unification matches. We'll see how he makes out. But the main thing here is that with Dennis Berinchyk, he's going to have a trickier target than Gustavo Lemos was. A more well-schooled boxer, just as aggressive, just as persistent, but more mobile, more agile.
It's interesting.
And a breath of fresh air in today's lightweight division as one unsatisfying career is winding down. The career of Gervonta Davis. Keyshawn Davis's career is just starting up with all the ambition,
Excitement, enthusiasm that you don't get from Gervonta.
willingness to fight the best. You get that from Keyshawn, and it just so happens that Keyshawn has spent a good amount of time now calling out Gervonta Davis.
And you wonder that that's not part of the reason Gervonta wants to call it a career at just 30 years old, because the walls are closing in. There was already pressure on you to fight Shakur Stevenson. Now there's added pressure to fight his buddy.
The both of them made a decision that they are not going to fight each other, not unify titles with each other. They want to beat up everybody else, and that means you.
Because you've got a belt. You've got the WBA title. The both of them have you in their crosshairs.
Everybody else. Vasyl Lomachenko still reigns as this division's IBF champion, though he could be courting retirement soon as well. And if he does, it's conceivable that another top-ranked fighter could be fighting for the red belt. Raymond Muratalla.
I believe that both he and Zaur Abdullayev are the 2 top-ranked fighters via the IBF rank standings. And if Lomachenko retires, they might fight for his vacant title.
Whoever wins will become a person of interest for the winner of Davis versus Berinchyk.
As far as Davis versus Berinchyk, I wouldn't be surprised if Dennis can make Keyshawn Davis look a bit more human in this fight. Push him
And make him work in all the ways that Gustavo Lemos could not. But I am still going with Keyshawn Davis to win. I don't know for sure if he knocks out Dennis Berinchyk. This is a battle of the unbeatens. Both guys don't know how to lose. Not yet.
but I am leaning towards Keyshawn.